Secret abundance reset for people who are always almost okay, but never truly ahead. Be careful with this video. If your money, time, and energy keep disappearing the moment you finally get a little extra, it's not bad luck. It's a scarcity loop running in the background. Watch it till the end if you're ready to stop leaking your overflow and actually experience more than enough in your account, your calendar, and your body. You know the pattern. Payday arrives, and within hours, a surprise expense wipes out exactly what you'd planned to save. You finally carve out time for something that matters to you, and 3 urgent requests immediately fill that space. You meet someone who could be a genuine connection, and you give so much energy managing their needs that nothing is left for reciprocity. Creative inspiration strikes, but only after you've committed your best hours to everyone else's priorities. You get close to a breakthrough, and something always seems to pull you back to almost. There's also the way scarcity echoes across everything. Never enough money even when you're earning more than last year. Never enough time even when you're saying no to some things. Never enough energy even when you're technically resting. Relationships that take more than they give, but you stay because leaving feels impossible. Opportunities that look promising until you realize they require you to undervalue yourself in exchange for access. Maybe you're the person who says yes to low-margin work because asking for what you're worth feels too uncomfortable. You frame it as being nice, building relationships, staying humble. But underneath, you know you're trading real value for phantom safety. Or perhaps you're the one who hoards time and energy, never quite sharing your gifts fully, because scarcity whispers that once you give them away, there won't be more. The scarcity loops that feel like reality. These aren't character defects or evidence that abundance isn't for you. They're loops, patterns so embedded in your nervous system that they feel like permanent features of reality instead of learned responses to seasons when there genuinely wasn't enough. Each month feels like the same story with different numbers. New income, same disappearing act. Different opportunities, identical hesitation about claiming them fully. It's like repainting the pantry while the shelves stay empty. The surface looks refreshed, but the structure underneath determines what can actually be held and stored. You might try new budgeting strategies, new time management systems, new affirmations about deserving abundance, but somehow you end up in the same position because the underlying system didn't change. The reason surface swaps don't create lasting abundance is that they're not addressing what generates scarcity in the first place. When someone trades one underpriced service for another underpriced service, when they replace one form of overgiving with a different way of depleting themselves, when they swap one scarcity story for another limitation that sounds more spiritual, they've changed the language but not the pattern. Real transformation happens at the level of the operating system. It's about updating the beliefs about deserving, the defaults under stress, the automatic responses that keep recreating not enough. But your brain isn't working against you when it defaults back to scarcity patterns. It's doing what brains do, which is conserve energy and stick to roots that once kept you safe. Every time you respond to opportunity by shrinking your ask, every time you fill your margin with other people's urgency, every time you scroll instead of sleeping, you're reinforcing pathways that made sense when scarcity was real. When pressure builds, your system reaches for the program it knows. The under-asking that feels like humility. The over-giving that feels like generosity. The avoidance that feels like patience. The doom-scrolling that feels like staying informed. These were protective strategies that helped you survive seasons when survival was the goal. But protection that outlives the danger becomes the barrier to overflow. The moment where abundance actually begins. There's a moment that changes everything, though. It's when you catch yourself mid-pattern and realize you're watching it happen instead of just being swept along by it. Maybe your hand is hovering over an impulse purchase you don't need, about to buy relief from feelings you haven't let yourself feel. Maybe you're about to shrink your price before anyone even asks you to. Maybe you're ignoring a warm message from someone who actually values your work, because scarcity says to wait for them to prove it first. That awareness isn't small. It's the first genuine break in scarcity's grip, because for the first time you're conscious enough to choose differently. Most people miss how meaningful these pauses are because they feel so ordinary. But that microsecond of space between impulse and action is where abundance actually begins. Here's what shifts when you start seeing scarcity patterns as information instead of permanent truths about your capacity. Instead of "there's never enough," the question becomes, what was this trying to protect me from when resources genuinely were scarce? Every repeated outcome becomes data about what felt necessary in harder seasons, but might not be serving where you're going. The loop isn't evidence that you're meant to struggle. It's feedback that you're outgrowing the identity that needed scarcity to feel safe. When that reframe settles in, you start noticing subtle indicators that abundance is near. You feel calmer in situations that used to trigger financial anxiety. You sleep better, not every night, but enough nights in a row to notice the difference. A small refund appears that you'd forgotten about. You have clarity about a simple ask you can make without the usual spiral of worthiness questioning. A friend introduces you to someone who might actually value your work. You tidy one corner of your workspace and notice that starting work feels inviting instead of overwhelming. You place one boundary about your capacity, and it holds without the dramatic fallout you predicted. You begin a task that used to feel impossibly heavy, and it starts easily, almost suspiciously so. These aren't fireworks, but they share something important. They feel lighter to act on than the efforts you used to force. How small alignments create surplus. Watch. What happens when these small alignments start compounding? You print a simple price card and keep it visible during client conversations. That one clean price attracts a better fit client who doesn't haggle. Working with someone who values your work takes less energy than managing someone who doesn't, which means you have bandwidth for another clear ask. That ask leads to a referral you weren't expecting. You move your phone out of the bedroom and sleep improves. Better sleep means sharper mornings. Sharper mornings mean you actually use the 15-minute follow-up window you've been meaning to establish. Consistent follow-up means warm leads don't go cold. Leads that stay warm turn into work that pays fairly. You clear one surface each evening before bed and notice that friction points disappear. Fewer friction points mean easier starts. Easier starts mean deliverables get shipped instead of lingering in draft form. Each change feels manageable alone, but together they create momentum that carries you into entirely different territory. Money that used to leak out of your accounts starts accumulating. Time that used to vanish into others' emergencies becomes available for your priorities. Energy that used to drain into performing and managing returns for creating and connecting. Relationships start feeling reciprocal instead of extractive. This momentum builds because alignment creates surplus. When you're working with realistic capacity instead of fictional stamina, everything becomes sustainable. You're not constantly managing depletion or predicting the next scarcity. You're not performing abundance while living scarcity. You're designing conditions where enough naturally becomes more than enough. The backwards approach most people take. This is where most people have been approaching abundance backwards. They've been trying to control outcomes, chase windfalls, manifest perfect timing, or force certainty about when enough will arrive. But abundance is downstream from designed systems. It's what naturally flows from inputs repeated consistently over time. Instead of waiting for perfect conditions before you ask fairly, You become someone who names clear value and lets compatibility reveal itself. Instead of hoping time will magically expand, you become someone who protects capacity and designs sustainable rhythms. Instead of chasing more, you become someone who arranges for enough to multiply naturally through compounding and clear asks. Your brain has what neuroscientists call the reticular activating system, an attention filter that decides what information reaches conscious awareness. Think of it like a search function that highlights whatever you've programmed it to notice. When you're thinking about a specific car, you suddenly see that model everywhere. When you focus on scarcity, you find evidence of not enough. The information was always there, but your attention wasn't tuned to receive it. When your priorities shift toward fair asks, clean follow-through, reciprocity, and rest, your attention filter shifts with it. You start noticing opportunities that were invisible when you were scanning for scarcity confirmation. The chronic under-asker starts recognizing when people are willing to pay fairly. The chronic overgiver starts seeing relationships where giving flows both ways. The person who never has time starts noticing pockets of space they've been filling with urgency that isn't theirs. What changes when you step into the identity of someone who doesn't chase abundance but designs conditions where it becomes likely? Someone who doesn't perform overflow but builds systems that generate sustainable surplus. Someone who doesn't wait to be chosen by luck but chooses inputs that make enough multiply. You stop being someone scarcity happens to and start being someone who participates in creating overflow. Change the inputs. Let abundance gather. When the filter shifts, opportunities get louder. Small alignments create surplus. Ask clearly. Place fairly. Rest enough. Stop chasing more. Arrange for enough to multiply. How this transformation unfolds in real life. This transformation often looks unremarkable from the outside, but feels profound from within. Someone prints a simple price card and keeps it where they can see it during every client conversation. They set up a daily 15-minute window for following up on proposals and leads instead of letting things fall through cracks. They move their phone to charge outside the bedroom and discover they actually sleep through the night. They clear one surface before bed, so mornings don't start with visual overwhelm. They send one clean proposal a day instead of waiting for perfect clients or perfect wording. The consistency creates a steady flow of conversations that wasn't there when outreach was sporadic. Within weeks, they close a right-fit client who pays what they asked without negotiation. They receive a small, unexpected credit they'd forgotten was coming. Their mornings feel steadier because sleep actually replenishes instead of just passing time. From the outside, the shift looks sudden, maybe even lucky. Someone who struggled with scarcity suddenly seems to have consistent flow. But from the inside, it's the natural result of countless small decisions aligned with a different identity around deserving and capacity. You're not waiting for permission to ask fairly. You're not waiting until you have more before you start protecting what you have. You're not waiting for perfect conditions before you design one small input that supports sustainable capacity. The shift is happening right now, in the space between recognizing the old patterns and choosing something different. Every time you name a clear price instead of shrinking it preemptively, every time you protect your capacity instead of overcommitting, every time you rest instead of pushing through depletion, you're building the system that creates different outcomes. Every time you follow up on a warm lead instead of assuming they've forgotten you, every time you accept help instead of proving you can do everything alone, you're proving to your system that abundance is actually possible. If you made it this far, you're already in the shift. The fact that these words resonate means your attention filter is already changing. Abundance near isn't some dramatic event waiting to happen. It's the natural expression of systems that have been quietly reorganizing around who you're becoming. It shows up as clean asks answered fairly, consistent income that doesn't vanish immediately, time that stretches because you're not filling every gap, relationships where energy flows both ways, and a sense that enough is finally becoming more than enough. Keep tuning your attention. Keep making choices from capacity rather than depletion. Keep designing inputs that support overflow rather than just survival. The system is already working with you. You just needed to remember how to work with it.